Hi, everybody. I am watching the list of folks who are appearing, and if you're a panelist, or should be, I am bringing you to the meeting. We had a meeting just before, kind of a subcommittee group of TSAC, some folks who I know will join in a minute, who are mostly panelists, so I'll be joining them. I just sent the invite to our police representative as well, so he'll be joining shortly. But thanks so much for being here. We'll be getting started shortly. Looks like we have a lot of folks here today, which is great. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. We'll get started in just a moment or two. We have a few panelists who I think are just wrapping up a previous meeting and she'll be joining in a second. We have a packed agenda today with a lot of stuff on Merrimack Street, which is great. We'll have a presentation around 4:25, 4:30 related to the expansion project that's just down there. And we'll be able to get started shortly.
Hi there.
Hi there, Councilor Donahue.
Long time no see.
It's been a while. We'll get started in just a second. I'm actually just looking for Councilor Wallace, who I know will be.
Yeah, she'll be jumping on too, and yeah, we're all trying to jump on.
How was the rest of the conversation? Sorry, I missed the last 8
Good. It's just kind of went on a little bit, and
we had a bunch of action items, and they're all yours.
Oh, excellent. Good. Now that's what happens when you miss the last 8 minutes of the meeting. If everything gets assigned to you, so that's.
If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
There you go. All right. I think I've got most everybody. If I missed any panelists, please just raise your hand. I'll bring you into the meeting. I think we're ready to get going. I'm sorry, everyone, for the slight delay. But it's 4:03 p.m. I think we're ready to start the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting. I see a hand raised from Councilor Wallace. Councilor Wallace, what's up?
Just want to say that like the one time I was going to put the camera on for this meeting, it says I can't. So I don't know. You seem to be the only one with your camera on.
Someone else said that their camera's not working too. I wonder. Did I screw up the
The
setting?
host has stopped it.
Really?
No, in the new security settings, all panelists are not allowed to do video until you would click on those little dots and let all panelists do video if you so choose.
Okay. So the dots meaning the menu button on the far right, and
Yeah.
then
Do you have to do it one by one, Jim?
No.
Oh.
It would say allow panelists to use video.
fascinating. I'm sorry, folks. I didn't realize that was an option. All right, video settings. Nope, that's just for me.
Oh, maybe it's in participants. Sorry.
Participants, great. Sorry, folks. I'm just gonna arrange this real quick.
No.
Oh, I see. I can. Huh. If I make you a co-host, does that allow it?
Yeah, you don't want to make everyone a co-host though.
No, it's not.
Why don't we keep going? We don't
No,
need
no,
to
no,
see
I
each
agree.
other.
I'm just curious if I can fix this. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was a new setting.
Well, I plan on keeping my camera off anyway because my
Yeah.
controls are above my camera.
Oh, do you want to make
and I
Jim a
have to-
co-host and then he
I
can
have to
fix
reach.
it? Maybe.
Yeah, not a bad idea. All right, let's do that. Jim, if you want to mess around with trying to fix that, I'll make Jamie a co-host too if he wants to. Since he's a co-chair. All right, folks, sorry for the delay here. So let's jump right into it. I want to quickly just introduce folks we have here as panelists for anyone who's it's the first time joining us for the for Traffic Safety Advisory Committee. So I'm Andrew Levine. I'm the Mayor's Chief of Staff. I'm co-chair of the committee. With us, we have Jamie Tuckalo, who's the DPS Deputy Director and co-chair. He is joining us today. We have Jim McCauley, City Councilor for Ward 5, Christine Wallace, City Councilor Ward 4. From the police, we have Sergeant Bill Steves. Great, hello. We have Richard Jones, our City Parking Clerk. We have, I don't think we have anyone from the fire department today. We'll be filling them in after the meeting. And if there's anything we need from them, we can definitely get in touch. We have Andy Port, Planning Director. We have John Eric White, City Engineer, I believe joined us. Yep, hi there, John Eric. Oh, and great. So Councilor McCullough, you figured out how to do video. That's great. All right, you have to tell me after the meeting. This is fine. We have Tony Komornik from the from MVPC. And I believe, oh, and we have Councilor Heather Shand, who's joined us as well from Ward 3. So great. And Councilor Jenny Donahue from Ward 2, which for some reason I don't have listed in my list of members, but she is a member of the committee. Great. So let's jump into the agenda. This committee handles new business, and then we'll take public comment, and then we'll talk about old business. I'm going to start with the one issue on new business that's not related to Merrimack Street. First, we're going to do the posted commercial truck routes ordinance. And this was put on by Councilor McCauley. Councilor McCauley, I'm going to just share. I should be sharing the ordinance now. Can everybody see this? Or are they still on the agenda?
Yeah, no, it's still, it shows.
All right, perfect. So Councilor McCauley, you want to kick us off and tell us what's going on here and what we can do?
Sure. So a year ago, we, well, actually 2 years ago now, we passed this ordinance to limit trucks and truck routes in the city. And we had listed out where they could go and all, where they couldn't go, et cetera, along the way. We passed it unanimously. And then, it was in the midst of COVID and it never went anywhere, right? So the process is, what I've learned is through the clerk's office, it goes to DPS, and DPS would file this with Mass DOT. So we can start, and they would need to approve it. So we would start to be able to establish truck routes. More importantly, start to establish where trucks can't go along the way, which is really the issue at hand here. And so I just wanted to bring it to the attention that we're looking for this to be forwarded via DPS to Mass DOT for their review and hopefully their approval. I thought this was a good venue because I know Tony Kamarick might be able to give us some assistance or lend some insight to that. And I also have an outstanding question for Tony regarding the one time we had started doing a study of truck traffic on Turkey Hill, which is somewhat related to this going forward. And I don't know if there was a status from MVPC on that as well. So I think I've thrown everything on the table for this right now.
And the ordinance has everything in here, which is great. So this description that you mentioned, DPS petitions DOT to exclude from the specific municipal ways to trucks. So great. Tony, I see you're unmuted. Do you want to weigh in here?
Yep, I'll weigh in. I've got a draft heavy commercial vehicle exclusion ordinance prepared that I'm going to circulate to Jamie and to John Eric. They can add a couple of sections for providing further justification as to why Turkey Hill Road is not suited to carry heavy vehicular traffic. I'm not sure how that would fall into this process, but to my understanding, the application to MassDOT still needs to be made in order for a legal heavy commercial vehicle exclusion to be put in place on any roadway in the Commonwealth.
Okay, so there are two. Thank you very much for that. That was the answer to my question. But to you, Andrew, those are two different issues, right? So this ordinance 59 is something that the council voted for established truck routes and not areas. And then Tony had answered the question about Turkey Hill specifically because it seems to have been it's now on the cut through list on Google navigation to come off the highway, cut through Turkey Hill and enter the business park that way. We can all surmise that it probably contributed to the collapse of the Plummer Spring Bridge as trucks were coming off Turkey Hill, cutting through Plummer Spring into Garden Street, et cetera, going forward.
Council, the next step for us is a petition to MassDOT using this information coming from DPS.
Yeah, there's two. Yeah, there's two of them, right?
Mhm.
So one is this ordinance, and two is the one specific for Turkey Hill that Tony had just alluded to.
Great. All right, so let's follow up offline on that. We'll start drafting it, and we'll get it out, and we'll just I might check in with you on it just to make sure it's all set. Please, Councilor Wallace.
Just a question. I had some residents ask me about how, kind of what's the criteria for banning trucks, and I don't know if banning is the right word, but thinking of Merrimack Street in particular, I know it's a major road, but is that even an option? How do you determine what's suitable and what's not? Because most of the time they could take, Route 110.
It looks like the work, in a sense, has been done because these are the posted commercial truck routes here in this ordinance, and it would include Merrimack as one of them. Is that right, Councilor McCollum?
Yeah, Merrimack Street would be allowed.
Would be allowed.
It's a main. The definitions we go back to. That's a main thoroughfare.
Yeah.
Connecting these connecting roads should be off the list. Residential areas should be off the list. That kind of thing, and that's what we went through 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I'm just curious how that all works, or how you do decide ultimately, or it's just up to the city to decide what works or what doesn't work. I mean,
Councilor Shan, please.
Shan.
Oh, and I think you're on mute.
There you go. Yeah, I just wanted to comment. So, I mean, we've got gas stations, unfortunately, in our area, and large, like the Lombardi trucks are in our area. And there are only a few ways for them to get in and out. And we're trying to keep them off of the side streets. That's why Merrimack would still need to be listed as an option for some of these trucks. And I think it's also, I remember discussing this with Councilor Eigerman, because we still have to have trucks going up State Street So I mean, I would love to ban them from Merrimack, but just because some of the businesses that we do support requires them.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll be
And-
talking about Merrimack more this meeting, so,
Yeah, we will.
okay, all right, thank you.
Just wanted to put that in.
Okay, very good. All right, well, I think we have our action steps here. Anything else that folks want to weigh in on this subject?
No, thank you.
All right, so I'll follow up with Jamie. I'll follow up with Councilor McCauley and with Tony, and we'll make sure that the DPS takes care of that petition. Great. All right. Okay, so done with the non-Merrimack portion of new business. So let's head on to Merrimack Street. So we have the Merrimack Street. I guess that was Merrimack Street too, if you stop and think about it. So Merrimack Street speeding and the need for additional in crosswalk signs. Now, I believe this was raised by Councilor Wallace.
Yes,
Great.
yes. So.
This is kind of a more general.
This is a general, yeah,
whereas
I've
the rest of
had.
these, we're talking about specific areas.
Yep. I mean, we're starting to notice more of the, the in crosswalk signs, and I've gotten feedback from people that they actually are helping. So last I'd heard from Jamie is that the city is out of some of these signs. So I have an outstanding request at Merrimack and Butler, and then I had another request at Merrimack and Jefferson. So, and I'm also just starting to get calls about Merrimack because it's the busy season, and if the police could focus some of their enforcement there, especially Saturday, Sundays, people with their boats coming in. We just need to slow down the traffic there, and I know the safety zone is being worked on, so there will be some help with that. But in the meantime, if we can get as many of those signs on Merrimack in the crosswalks, I think that would be very, very helpful. I know some people don't like them all over the place, but until we have permanent solutions, I think that's what we should be going with.
Now, what kind of signage should we be recommending?
Oh, just the crosswalk one, the ones that are in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have budget items for that.
Are there priority crosswalks you're thinking just kind of?
Well, that's two specific ones that I was asked about. Merrimack and Butler. So,
Okay.
and actually DPS put one out there and somebody stole it. That's what Jamie told me, which is very sad.
And we've seen in other cases, folks have just been taking those signs.
I mean, these are like,
like.
these are a hot commodity right now. And
Actually, a really good example was I took a ride with Andrew today, and somebody literally moved. Remember Andrew? They
Oh, yep.
out of the crosswalk
Over to the side of the road.
onto the side of the road. So I mean, unfortunately, no matter how many of these you put out, which again, we don't have any left because I have to spread them citywide. I have to
right.
in every ward. And we're trying to keep up with demand. It's just with shipping issues and the cost of these, which are not cheap, and then storage during the winter. I mean, they take up a lot of room. You guys seen the bases of these. It's just, it's getting to the point that I think that maybe we can start moving around ones that we currently have in the roads. We can move from point A to point B once people start slowing down. Like Councilor Wallace, you just said you got great feedback on the ones that are out there. Well, then maybe we can move those to another location for now until we can figure something out.
Okay. And I just will say there is a resident when it's time that was requesting this. So when you're done, I think it was Kristen Hunter, and she may have a more specific request. All right, thank you.
Excellent. No, I'll be happy to bring Kristen into the meeting. I just want to get to the other hands that were raised. I saw Councilor Donahue and then Councilor Shand.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of tag on to that sentiment about the crosswalk signs. I've had requests for them as well in Ward 2. And I'm not sure if they're working in a spot, it might be because they're there, and I'm not sure putting them in another spot and taking them away people might just go back, you know, because I feel like it's not people that live in town necessarily all the time. It's people that, you know, it's a one time through. And I kind of feel like it might be advantageous of us to invest in, you know, a few more of those, even though they take a little, you know, time to sort of, you know, we should have enough for when they do go missing, and, you know, when new requests are made. I just kind of feel like they're not a permanent solution, but they do seem to help. And what do we know what they go for? Can anyone tell me that? How much they
Cost-wise?
cost? Yeah.
Yeah, between $300 and $350 a piece.
Okay. Okay. Which, you know, I mean, it's like I said, for not a permanent solution, you know, I wouldn't mind supporting a line item for a few more of them to, you know, really get them in all the key crosswalks and ones that get requested, because they're heavily, I mean, you know, even some of the crosswalks that have the push button lights still could benefit from having a little additional visibility. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on that. I would support more to those. The other thing too, Andrew, can I just make a small request? I don't know if this is fair or not, but can we turn off commenting until public comment? Because my screen reader is just reading all
shoot.
of the comments. Is that not fair? I don't know.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I'm seeing, you know, some dialogue here. If it's becoming distracting, and you know, I'm trying to monitor just in case there's anyone who's having an issue getting into the meeting. We will have time for public comment. I think a lot of these things can be talked about then. So if folks wouldn't mind refraining from the comments for now, that would be great. I like keeping it up just in case.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to have this so that attendees can chat.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, as I'm speaking, it's coming up and it's reading it to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it off for now. That'd be great.
Fortunately, you guys don't have to hear the screen reader read everything on my screen, but just so you guys all know, like if I touch a tab, it tells me the tab. Like there's a lot of talking that I have to contend with. So it just helps if there's not additional, you know, stuff being read, like, because it just pops up when the comments come in. It just reads it automatic. I can't shut that off.
Thank you, Counselor. Yeah, I'm going to turn that off
thank
for now.
you. I appreciate it.
Easier. And there will be time for public comment for folks to talk. So I do see some good ideas and things coming out from this.
Absolutely.
We'll
oh
get
yeah,
to that,
no,
at
nothing
public
wrong
comment,
with the
so.
comments at all.
Yeah,
I just am getting very distracted by them as I'm trying to speak. I'm sorry. But yeah, I would like to see us purchase a few more of those crosswalk signs. And yeah, thank you. I'll yield with that.
Very good. Okay. So I believe that since this was raised, and Councilor Wallace said this was brought on by Kristen Hunter, I'd be happy to bring her into the meeting. I'm going to allow you to talk, Kristen. If there's anything you'd like to add to this, you should be able to talk now. You just need to unmute and should be ready to go.
Hi, thank you. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you great.
Hi, so I live at 433 Merrimack. I'm at the intersection of Merrimack and William Griffin Way. We've lived here since 2019 and noticed the traffic has just been horrendous. I have a young child, as do most of the neighbors in the neighborhood, and we're hoping to get some permanent solutions here, as in permanent speed limit signs that say 25 miles an hour. I was the one that requested the, I guess, semi-permanent yield to pedestrians 25-mile-an-hour sign at Jefferson and Merrimack, because cars do not stop and let pedestrians cross. It's very dangerous. I'm super concerned about the comment that Merrimack Street is going to become a permanent truck route. I'm not clear as to why that decision was made when Route 1 or 110 is an option. We have 18-wheeler trucks that fly down this road 24 hours a day. And most people don't adhere to the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
And Kristen, if you have any other questions, I'll just raise your hand. I'll bring you back in. I'm going to put you on the mute for now, but
Okay.
if there's anything else, just we'll make sure. Just raise your hand. I'll bring you back in.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hold on just 1 second. Okay, I want to go to Jamie. I have a couple quick questions for you. So Merrimack Street is an official, it's an official 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on the whole street.
Yes.
So this is a little random, but I wonder if it's worth checking in on. I use a GPS while driving, and it has it still coded, I think, through Google as 30 miles per hour, which is interesting. So anyone from out of town is seeing it say 30 miles per hour still. I wonder if there's a way to what the process looks like to change that through Google Maps.
That's something I would ask probably Tony from MVPC. I don't know the answer to that question.
Tony, if you know, raise your hand. If you don't, then you can just pretend you didn't hear that. But that's an interesting question.
Yeah, we've had some issues with some of these wayfinding programs in the past in other communities in terms of what can be limited and what can't be. I think given the fact that a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit has been enacted by the city and is applicable there, the city could contact any of these organizations and request that change be made. It's only when you try and limit someone without a legal backing will these groups push back and say, no, we can't do that because there is no legal reason for us to be limiting traffic or speed on a given facility.
Yep. All right. I'll go to, I saw Councilors Wallace and Donahue had their hands raised. So Wallace and Donahue. And then if anyone does want to answer the question that was asked about why trucks in Merrimack, I believe it was answered before, and just that Merrimack unfortunately is qualified as a throughway, and because of the number of businesses on that street, it would be necessary to allow trucks there. But if anyone wants to comment on that, that's fine. But I saw Councilor Donahue put her hand down, so I'll go to Councilor Wallace.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up to Kristen's comment. Yeah, where she lives is right near that hill. And that is a tough spot. So, and I've seen kids out waiting for the bus out there. And that's part of the problem too on Merrimack is cars that just go right by the buses. What I have mentioned to her, and maybe John Eric can give us an update, is that engineering is working on the safety zone design there. The city council had passed the safety zone last year, whenever it was. We have not submitted that to the state yet because I was waiting on the design in case we need to expand the safety zone. And that will make it 20 miles an hour. So the question is, when we do the design for the safety zone, will there be additional signage kind of approaching, at the bottom of the hill and whatnot? So there is a longer term solution in the works, but again, I echo anybody, if we can get any of those signs, or it sounds like, even just a speed limit sign. I don't know where they are right now, but, just a regular 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign somewhere around that area. But there are quite a few, but
There are a few on Merrimack Street, especially leading into that area.
yeah.
Look, the big ones on there last year. So
I'd have to see. Yeah, anything we can do. I mean, if we get more crosswalk sign, just anything. But maybe John Eric could mention where he's at with the safety zone design.
And John Eric, you're on mute.
Yep, sorry about that.
No problem.
We just met with the with Kim Turner, the special projects coordinator, and we're going to meet with Lisa Reed, I believe next week. We have a few options for the parking, and we need to meet with the parks people to see how it merges with the park and the park's redesign. So I would say we'll be done with the design by August, going through public hearings, and then in a perfect world, go to construction this fall or next spring.
Okay. Are you done with the safety zone design? Because that is probably going to have to come to the council, kind of like we did with the interim solution. So I guess any,
Yeah, the design that I was just referring to, the three options we have, Christine, that
Yeah.
is an integral part of the safety design,
okay,
safety,
okay,
because it's, you know, those two bays. I mean, you know what the parking looks like, the proposed parking in general that we're doing.
yep,
We have two,
yeah,
we have one bay to the left of the clubhouse, one bay to the right. So all that forms the safety zone.
yep,
So once they decide on, once they approve that, those are the three options I was talking about.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess my request is just as you're working through them, if there's anything that comes to mind with slowing people down in the approaches, like advanced signage, or, you know, if, just
we
keep
can
that
add-
in mind. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, we can have that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I see Counselor Donahue with her hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I just was kind of thinking, you know, a bit about the situation on Merrimack Street and the speeding. And, you know, I mean, obviously we do need more signs, but I'm kind of wondering about enforcement. And what that's been like since we made the change from 30 to 25. And being that it is such a narrow, you know, but yet, you know, very busy main street, but narrow, and, you know, people do fly. And I'm just wondering if, you know, we can get more enforcement on Merrimack Street, like we might have on any of our highly traveled streets, like High Street or Low Street or Story Ave or whatever. I mean, you know, people are speeding regularly. And, you know, not for nothing, but if 18-wheelers are speeding through at a high speed, you know, that's something that absolutely needs to get flagged by enforcement. And, you know, those delivery trucks or truck drivers or whatever, like they, you know, they can be pulled over too, right? So, you know, I'm just kind of thinking along those lines, like, you know, do we have the bandwidth to, especially as we go into a busier season and with the truck route changing, and maybe sort of get some of these drivers to be sort of made an example of, so it kind of trickles down through the truck driver community of folks driving through Newburyport on Merrimack Street, not just speed, you know, like, I mean, I feel like if we kind of, you know, get some enforcement on that, if we're going to see an uptick on it because some of the other streets are restricted, then it makes sense to me to not just rely on the speed signs, but to really have some enforcement there, and really, you know, because yeah, you know, we don't want to have to ticket everybody, but, you know, we should be ticketing speeders that are speeding through 25-mile-per-hour zones, you know, especially if they're going above 30, you know, which in many cases, as we hear from the residents, they are. So that's my kind of inquiry, I guess, if that's something we
Yeah,
can
no,
look at
thank
more.
you, Counselor Donahue. And the good thing about, you know, this meeting is that we do have everybody on board who'd be involved in this. So Sergeant Steves, I've asked you to unmute if you have anything you can add on enforcement and what that looks like.
Sure. We are doing enforcement. At any given time of day, we have a certain number of officers on duty, and depending on the call load, the officers can be in certain spots on Merrimack Street. I don't have specific numbers for you, and I don't know if there's been a recent traffic study done by Lieutenant Samasco. I can inquire as far as that goes. I know we do active enforcement, but again, depending on our personnel levels, which right now are pretty minimal, and depending on a call load, which has gone up, we just can't be there 24/7. Is there a specific time of day, aside from maybe the commute in the morning and in the afternoon, that's problematic, that we could focus on? Because I know we are writing violations. And I also know from living in the city myself, that perception doesn't always match reality. But I've noticed that the 25-mile-an-hour has helped. I know with me personally driving down Merrimack Street, the 25 does lower them a little bit. People tend to have a tendency to do the 10 over no matter what the speed limit is. Even on the highway, they tend to go 10 over what it is. But I'm also guilty myself of having a perception sometimes, even on my own street, that I think cars are going faster than they actually are. And it takes a pretty good trained eye to tell exactly how fast a car is going. But if what it really comes down to is a manpower thing. We don't have a dedicated vehicle that just does traffic in any given point on Merrimack Street. So as we can do it, the officers log what they call traffic enforcement stationary positions throughout the city. I could say we get just as many complaints on High Street and Low Street as we do on Merrimack Street. So if we have at minimum 3 officers on at a time, we have to spread out the enforcement. And sometimes we don't get to pay attention to the areas that something might be occurring at that particular moment. But what I'm going to do is pass on that information to Lieutenant Samasco to see if we can get, I recall recently, maybe a month ago, having a traffic study done near the Pioneer League field. You'll see the traffic sign that flashes at people, and that does record speeds over time. So I will inquire with that and get back to you on that as far as that goes. But rest assured, we are doing enforcement on Merrimack Street. We are ticketing violators. I apologize if I'm a little disjointed. I worked a double overnight last night, and I'm not quite myself today. So I
It's
apologize.
okay. Thank you so much. And I didn't mean to imply that there isn't currently
Oh
enforcement.
no, I'm as frustrated. I'm as frustrated as you are. I wish we had a dedicated.
What the, what
I
the
wish we had a
bandwidth
dedicated
is.
traffic car. To be honest with you, I wish we had a dedicated traffic car.
Is that something that, you might,
With our manpower,
they might.
with our manpower right now, Jenny, it's difficult.
Oh, no, I was going to say, is that something that they might consider putting in the budget maybe for next year or something like that? I mean, has that ever come up, like, to maybe have that be an ask? Because I feel like that's something that the council would
Sure.
support, because it's
Sure.
really such a problem for us in every
Sure.
ward, right?
Sure.
So I,
Yeah. It's the old funny
I would
phrase,
support
there's
that.
never a cop around when you need one.
right.
That frustrates me to know. It
Yeah,
frustrates me to no end, because it seems as soon as we move to one area, then we have a problem in another area.
Yep.
The kid's sticking his finger in the dike, and oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another
Yep.
one. There's another one.
Yeah. No, I definitely get it. I just, I was
So-
just curious what our bandwidth is, right now. And maybe that is something we could look at moving
Right. No,
forward.
we are
for
struggling
next-
with things like our
next
mobile
year's
data
budget.
terminals,
Yeah.
in the cruisers. We're having bandwidth problems. We're having things that need to be sorted out. These systems are changing all the time. We apparently, I'm not sure if we're getting a new IT person in anytime soon.
I know.
I believe we are, and that will help. But I know that we don't have a specific traffic enforcement vehicle that we use. It's just the patrolmen, when they have some downtime, they sit and watch the traffic in a particular spot, either Piney League
Right.
Field or further down. It's tougher when you get closer to Leary's in that area, because there really isn't any place to park that's out of the way and safe.
Right.
The street narrows, and if the volume is high, it's difficult to get back into traffic to get these people stopped without endangering other people.
Right.
I don't know how many times I've had elderly drivers that I've tried to pass to go get a truck, and somebody panics and we almost have an accident. I don't want to make it worse than it already is. So I think visibility is important. I think we're trying to be as visible as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
If a dedicated traffic car certainly would be helpful, because that frees him up for answering calls unless there's an emergency.
Right.
But the rest of the officers are answering calls pretty much straight through the day. And because as you know, we're we're pretty much do it all kind of
Yeah.
business.
So,
Well, you know, I think
thank you,
there-
Sergeant. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Counselor.
Oh, no, I was
I
just
didn't mean
gonna
to
say, I
ramble
think there
again.
could
I'm
definitely
problem.
be an
a little bit out of my
appetite,
head.
you know, to pursue something like that, because, you know, safety, traffic and safety are such big items that we're really trying to get a handle on in the city,
Sure.
that I feel like, you know, that wouldn't be an unreasonable ask next budget season, you know. I mean, I know you guys have a lot of, you know, past due needs right now in this budget this year, and, you know, I get all of them. So, you know, but just, you know, for future reference, like for next year, I would support anything that would improve us having a little more range on, you know, our ability to monitor traffic. So,
Sure. No, we
thank you.
have in the past, we have had a traffic car in the past. That's been very successful.
Yeah, okay, good to know.
But
Well,
it's
thank you
really,
very
it's really a
much.
manpower issue, but thanks, Jenny, for bringing that up.
Yeah. No, thank you.
So I'm going to
and I
leave this
yield. I'm
agenda
good.
item. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Counselor.
I'm good. I yield.
Great. So I'm going to leave this agenda item on for next time. We'll discuss it in the next meeting as well. I think we've got a number of action steps that are here. We're going to get the traffic report from Lieutenant Samasco that Sergeant Steves mentioned. We're going to look into the additional permanent signage, the additional temporary signage, and we'll come back next time with a report on how to make that happen. I'm going to look into the Google Maps issue. I think that's relevant for folks who are coming in from out of town who are saying they can drive 30 when it's 25, even though they should be looking at signs. If they're looking at their GPS, then, you know, something to work on. So we have a number of action items, and we need to keep this in the conversation, because we owe it to the residents of Merrimack Street and really everybody. So we'll keep working on that. Councilor Donahue, do you have your hand raised? All right, no problem if not. All right, I want to move on to next agenda items. I'd like to start with 200 to 208 Merrimack Street, because I know that we have some folks who are joining us with a presentation. If you want to raise your hands if you have that presentation, and I will put you in the meeting so you can share screens, and we will get you in. So it's hi there, Lisa. Let me put you in. I'm going to promote you to panelist. I see Ken.
And Andrew, while you're doing that, this is Andy Port.
Yep.
I also have some visuals from the applicant's materials there and some ortho images if helpful.
Brilliant. If I see Eric and Ken, I'm promoting you as well. Hi there, Lisa. You might be on mute. Great.
Hi, Andrew. Ken Cram also,
Perfect.
and Eric Botterman.
Eric should be in, and I just clicked again. Ken should be getting a message from me that I'm trying to promote as a panelist. All right, we should have Ken. And we should have Eric. Counselor Shand, I know you had sent this to me originally. Did you want to give any background on this, or should we just jump right in?
Sure, I can give some background. So regardless of the application for 208 Merrimack Street, it was before the ZBA. The concern in this area, specifically for the Ward 3 folks, is how dangerous it is right now. And that's why I wanted to get it in front of this committee again, because we do have, you know, safe routes to school, complete streets projects for this area, but we also need to be considering this holistically from this perspective of Dove Street as well, because the complete streets project, just looking at the Kent Street, Merrimack Street interchange. So just want to get this out there and get some ideas from John, Eric, and other folks on how we can make this a safer place for residents, because in between the two parking lots at Leary's, we have a crosswalk that residents take their life into their own hands when they try to cross Merrimack Street. And that's a known issue. So I'll turn it over to Andy Port or Lisa to talk about their project.
Would anyone like to share slides? I can remove my share if that's helpful.
And this is
Yeah.
Lisa. I'm not sure if Andy Port wanted to go. I'm happy to jump right in and have do a big, a high level overview. And then as we drill down, we can get Ken and Eric involved. Is that okay with you?
Let's do that. I'm happy to hand it over to you if that sounds all right with Andy.
Either way, I'm totally fine with that. And if you wanted me to supplement that with anything I have, just let me know.
All right.
Okay.
We'll go ahead, Attorney Mead.
So this slide, Andrew, you're controlling the slides?
I am. I
Okay,
can
super.
change.
This is
or-
perfect.
Oh,
This is
great. Good.
Yeah, this is good. So this is the existing conditions at Leary's, 200 to 208 Merrimack Street. And, this is not an unfamiliar area for anyone. And you can see where Dove Street is on the opposite side of the westerly parking lot. And Kent Street is a little bit off center from the easterly parking lot. And that's the condition as it exists today. And it almost exactly looks like that. If you can go to the next slide down. So actually, if you slide down one more, it's colored. It's just easier to look at. So the proposal is to add, we're removing part of the current one-story addition in the back, and then replacing that and adding another just over 800 square feet. So there's going to be a takeout coffee shop there with 4 seats inside. So the actual coffee shop service area is just about 400 square feet. And then there's going to be about 70 seats outside seasonal as part of the takeout carryout. So as part of this, understanding all of the issues around there, we wanted to make sure we had sufficient parking under the ordinance for all of the existing conditions, which are 3 residential units, the Leary's package store and Otto's takeout. And then, of course, the new use of the coffee shop. So that requires 71 total parking spaces. And there are 71 parking spaces on this plan. We recounted them again after the other night. One of the neighbors brought up a question about whether there were or not, but there are actually 71 spaces. So we've delineated the spaces. And actually, this plan is a little out of date because we made a couple of changes to it that are not on this plan, but I'll explain what the changes are. So in addition to that, we've added, parking islands to bring some greenery back to it. And you can see we have formalized the ingress and egress to the parking areas. So I'm going to start out on the westerly side. So now we have parking spaces delineated. One of the other things we've done on this building is we've added loading doors on the back part of the building that didn't exist before. And the square area in the back, Andrew, if you could take your cursor and go to the Cashman Park side of this on the west side of the new seating area, where it says lot area, see on the gray, where there's, bring it over into the lot. There you go, up a little bit more, that right there. So that area right now, we had proposed to keep as boat storage. And given the comments related to the current issues that exist with deliveries that stop in front of the building, we have run a truck turning template, and Ken could talk a little bit more about this, for the big 40-foot long box trucks, which are what do the delivery. And they can come back in there, they can back in the site, they can deliver to those back doors, and they could turn around and pull back out. So there's no reason now to have the truck delivery stop on site, because we'll remove that boat storage. If you go to the front of the site outside, what we would all understand to be the entrance to Leary's, where the handicap parking space is now located on this plan. At the request of Councilor Shan, we've also included, you don't have it on this plan, but on the plans we submitted, a planting area that clearly protects those parking spaces and inhibits, if you will, people from pulling through by the building, around that light pole and into the parking lot, like all of you know people do today. So that entrance will now be formalized to be a proper in and out entrance in one place and not spread across the entire front. If you go to the easterly side of the site, we have actually moved the parking that is adjacent to the building back a little bit into the parking lot, and we have drawn and are providing a walkway that will go from Merrimack Street, the edge of the sidewalk on Merrimack Street, which comes where the crosswalk is, all the way to the back of the site. So it would be between the front of the cars and the building, and it will be striped, and it will be a pathway, a clear pathway that goes to the back of the site. And then we're constructing an entrance into the park that's handicap accessible, meets all the appropriate guidelines, with a landing in the park. We've also provided, not that it matters for this conversation, but the Parks Commission is accepting a grant, a donation of $17,500 to make a connection from here over to the major sidewalk in Cashman Park that runs from Merrimack Street down to the river. So that's really the plan here. And Ken, if you want to pop up here and talk about anything else you think that I missed, that would be beneficial. So that folks can talk about, what concerns they might have, and the added traffic as a result of the coffee shop.
Yeah, sure, Lisa. Yeah, we did a traffic assessment for the project, and we had looked at all those factors. And as Lisa very well described, definitely an improvement getting the trucks off. And I don't know, Andrew, if I could share my screen, I can show the auto turn runs.
Absolutely. I'm going to stop sharing, and you'll be able to share yours as a panelist.
Can everyone see that pretty drawing?
Yeah.
This shows what we call the single unit 40, which is a single unit truck, which has a wheelbase of 40 feet. And in this case, it's coming into the parking lot, and it travels up and around, and it can make a big giant U and come back to right where those freezers are, which is right where the doors will be. And that's how it can get in, and they can easily unload at that point. And then the next one, from that same point, there's adequate room for it to be able to back up to the corner and then pull out and exit back out to Merrimack Street. That's a major league bonus right there. Just getting that traffic, the trucks off the street, to help improve the flow on Merrimack Street.
Ken, if I could just interrupt for a second, because this plan shows the landscaping area by the handicap parking spaces up front. And it also shows the pathway from Merrimack Street back to the back of the property. I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Sorry to interrupt, Ken.
That's quite all right. I'm used to it. So that's what we've done. That's all I really need to say right now. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Eric, is there anything Ken and I missed?
No, I don't think so. I think you covered everything. There's enough parking spaces, and I think, like Ken said, getting the delivery trucks to not park on Merrimack Street is a huge benefit.
One other thing, one of the comments from the other night was in this area here across from the proposed freezers, someone asked, well, could you get more parking in there? And, that's something we're going to evaluate. We just don't know at this point if we can get more parking in this general area right here. We want to make sure that we leave enough room for trucks to be able to load and unload safely without conflicting with parked vehicles.
There are two loading doors beside the freezer as well. It's not just the freezer. Yeah, exactly. So we're happy to answer any questions and take any comments and recommendations and feedback and anything else that TSAC has. As you know, we had hoped to have this conversation a couple of weeks ago, but due to very unfortunate circumstances by many people, we are here today.
No, thank you. And I appreciate you coming today. We had a number of issues last time with scheduling and COVID and other things. So I'm glad that we can make this happen today. I'd like to go around to TSAC members, open it up for questions from them. Comments are certainly welcome, but any questions that you have. I will then go to members of the public for any questions and comments. I'll go through all questions and comments from the public and then allow panelists and presenters to answer them all at the same time. If there's anything that felt like it wasn't answered, we'll make sure that we reiterate. And then I'll allow for discussion with our panelists and with our TSAC members, just to make sure that we look at some possible solutions here and ideas. As Councilor Shan said, this includes the current project that's listed, but it also raises other questions just about parking, about pedestrian access and the site in general. And I believe it's on the complete streets list. John Eric might want to talk about that. But anyway, let's take some questions from our panelists first. I have Councilor Donahue, and then we'll go to Clerk Jones. So Councilor Donahue.
Yes, thank you. So Attorney Mead, with 71 spaces, exactly how many do you have that are slated for handicap parking? Would it be 2 or 3? Because it kind of falls at 2.5. So I'm just curious.
Lisa, can you can you bring that plan back up? It shows on the plan.
I can't actually see it, but if someone else can look at it.
Yeah,
and tell me,
well,
that'd be
we don't
great.
have the plan up, Ginny. So
Okay.
we're asking to have it pulled back up.
Yep.
Which
So
which
we
slide is
have,
helpful?
we have 1, 2, 3,
Three.
4.
Before,
believe-
okay, great.
I believe we have 4, right? We have 2 back by the coffee shop. Is that right?
It looks like that, Lisa, and it looks like 2 by the.
Right. So I believe
Yep.
we have 4, Jenny.
Oh, beautiful. So there's
Where's the
2
fourth?
kind
I
of at
see
each.
one. I see
I can't
1,
see.
2, and I see 3. Where's 4?
Yeah.
I'm just missing it.
Four on
So
the other
it's-
side? Can
It's
you
on the
zoom
other
in?
side of the crosshatch right there, where it says
here.
4, right there. Yes,
That's
exactly.
Yeah, and
also
I'm
a
assuming
handicap
that at least one of those spots is van accessible with the additional cross hatching. That's what I'm
Both
assuming
of them
he's
are.
saying. Oh,
There's-
beautiful. Okay.
yeah.
There's one on each. Okay, great.
Lisa, I can't
And
see that there's
then,
4 there. Is
Can
there-
I just sort of ask, like, because I can't see the plans, like, what does the access look like from those spots to
Sure.
the 2, now what will be 2 business entrances?
Sure, that's exactly right, Jenny. So there are 2 at each. So there's 2 up front by the front part of Leary's, and it has the van space in between. And there are 2 back by the coffee shop and has the van space in between.
And what's the path of travel like? from them?
So the ones at the front at Leary's go directly at grade into Leary's. And
Okay.
Similarly, the ones back by the coffee shop, there looks like they're about 20 feet away from the front door, but they are at grade as well.
Okay, perfect. And there's no steps into the new business?
That's correct.
Okay,
Beautiful.
Eric said that's
Okay.
correct.
Excellent. All right. Well, those are just the first things that come to mind. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Clerk Jones, take it away.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, Councilor Donahue mentioned handicap. That's really where I was going, and you covered that sufficiently. However, I would ask if you have any plans for signage, because we have had issues, particularly on private areas, where people will argue that there's no sign, and then we don't control the building. But I assume that we could have an agreement that you would put signs on the building. I know as you go into Leary's, I think there is a sign on the building, maybe one, but so signage is critical. And also if you could mark appropriately the space on the ground, that helps a tremendous amount.
Sure. So Richard, you're talking about the handicap parking signage at each space and then paint, and then the painting on the ground as well. I don't think that the applicant would have a problem with that at all.
No, that's typical. That's typical. We always like to put a sign up because if somebody that's not handicapped parks in one of those spots, they don't see a sign. Like you said, I always say, well, there was no sign there. I didn't see that it was a handicap spot. So
No, I've heard that argument before.
we
Yeah,
always
and
like to put
I
signs up.
definitely want to, I would like to echo Clerk Jones's assessment there. It's very key to have it painted on the ground and the signage. And that does get lost on businesses sometimes because, it's private, but, and just for the record, they, as long as they're willing to call enforcement, if there's an infraction, they can have the sign say up to a $200 fine. Because that is the city's handicap parking violation fine. So, it's a pretty good deterrent from people abusing those spots. And like I said, as long as the business gives permission and calls, enforcement when there's an infraction, if they can, that's how that gets enforced. So, the sign, there's sort of guidelines for them, but I would just throw out there that it would be worth having the monetary infraction amount or something relative to there being a fine, potentially incurred, that sort of thing, because that's what speaks loudest. So that would be my recommendation on that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilor Donahue. We will definitely add those details to the notes on the plans.
Let's go to.
Great. Thank you so much.
Let's go to Councilor Wallace.
Thank you. I have a few questions. Maybe I'll just list them off and then you can address them. First question is, I just want to make sure I understand the number of spaces and trip generation and how many spaces are being used, or if that's documented somewhere, like, is there a traffic study? I did look at the zoning docs online. I didn't see a traffic study, but that could have been me. My other question is, so if you're giving $17,000 for access to the park in the back, I would recommend, or I don't know if this is going to the planning board, but I would think that the applicant should also be required to provide any traffic mitigation. I spent years working in developments and this was a very, very common thing. So I know there's other issues here. So if there's anything that could be improved as a result of this project with the infrastructure, a public-private partnership is a good way to do it. And then also I just want to comment, I was contacted when it comes time for public comment. Emily Dunn had specifically written me a letter about some concerns about a parking sign a little further down. So I just want to make sure that when it's time, she does get called on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. And I see some folks who already have their hands raised. Emily's one of them. We will make sure that we call on the public. Any responses from our presenting?
Sure. So Councilor Wallace, under the ordinance, the following parking spaces are required. So 6 parking spaces for the residents, okay, 43 spots for the retail trade, that's the liquor store, 3 spots for the existing fast food takeout, and then 19 spaces for the new fast food takeout, mostly related to obviously the seats, because that's how you do the spaces, the seats outside, because there's only 4 seats inside. So that totals 71 parking spaces. So there are 71 parking spaces provided on this site.
Okay, so the 71, because you said it was like 70 seats and then 71 parking spaces. So that's 71 includes all of the other existing
correct
parking. Okay.
Yeah, the 71 spaces meets the zoning requirements for parking for the existing and proposed use.
Okay. And what about trip generation, during
Sure.
peak times and
Sure, I'm going to turn it over to Ken because Ken did, take, obviously do his analysis under the ITE trip generation handbook related to the new use. And Ken, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, we did, as part of our assessment, we looked at what the proposed coffee shop would generate. And if we just take the numbers straight out of the ITE trip generation manual, the numbers indicate there would be a total of 956 daily trips. So you cut that in half for the total number of vehicles. So that's roughly 478 if my math is correct. And then during the morning peak hour, which is their big peak hour, it's projected to be 154 trips, 79 cars in, 75 cars out, with lower numbers during the weekday evening peak hour, which are actually going to be lower if the hours of operation are as what we're expecting them to be. Right now, I do believe they're 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. So actually, we could make the argument that during the weekday evening peak hour, we would have no impact. But not all of those trips are expected to be new trips because of the nature of the use. We expect a significant portion of those trips will be already on Merrimack Street, passing by the site, and they'll stop in, grab their coffee and bagel, and then continue on their way. There's some data to point out that it's pretty high, but we went on a conservative route and only used the lower number of 51% for the pass-by trips to determine what the net new trips would be on Merrimack Street, which could range from 78 to 27 during the respective weekday morning and weekday evening peak hours.
Is
we'll
there
be
a traffic report where this is provided anywhere online?
Yeah, so that we did submit a traffic analysis that Ken just talked about, and that is online.
Okay.
The Councilor Wallace, the zoning board did ask for some more details. So we're after this meeting, we wanted to have this meeting and then talk about how much further we're going to go or need to go. And the zoning board is also going to engage a peer review.
Okay. Okay.
Councilor Shand.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. So Chris, Councilor Wallace, just to give everyone a heads up. I mean, this went through the ZBA on Tuesday night and it by no means has been approved yet. Just want to give some folks some context here. So I know we've got 71 spaces delineated, but currently I think they're only using a smaller number, probably 58 because the boat storage is in the back. So the traffic study that was done in 2020. So there is going to be a new peer review study that is done before we go back to the ZBA to get the trips, because what was done was the incremental trips that the coffee shop could include. Right now, we've got traffic issues with the current use as is, that's where I'm hoping we can get some more dialogue from John Eric on what we can do now to help mitigate some of this traffic. So just giving some folks some context on why we're here. Thank you.
Because you're mentioned by name, I'm happy to bring you in, John Eric, and then we'll go to Councilor McCauley, but if you'd rather pass, you absolutely can.
Andrew,
no,
could I make one comment relative to Councilor Shand's recent comment?
Oh, go ahead, Ken.
Thank you. Yes, the count data we had was from Mass DOT's website for 2020. That was what was available at the time of the study, and that was simply at that time was used to determine what were the counts on Merrimack Street at that time. Granted, that was during COVID. Since that time, the website has actually been updated with newer data. And as Lisa indicated, depending on where we go after this and what the actual comments are, we will be supplementing that information with current 2022 information as well.
That seems prudent. All right, John Eric.
On that note, I mean, I would say that you should put out tubes ASAP, because before school gets out, you get a better idea of what's happening, and it actually might be too late. Some of the traffic is probably already changed. Yeah, so Heather brought up the existing conditions. This intersection with Kent has been a problem for years. Everyone knows it. There's a lot of conflicting access points at this intersection. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I put together a quick sketch just to improve Kent Street. At the least, we really need to make some improvements to this intersection. There's too many very wide open areas along Merrimack that causes problems with with conflicts. We need to minimize the conflicts, make it more streamlined. For the parking lot on the east side of the coffee shop, that definitely needs to be improved. The sidewalk needs to be improved, the alignment for the access. The biggest concern I have is with all this added flow, right now it's primarily a T intersection because there's not that many, there's not much access to that parking lot on the west side. I mean, on the east side. With these flows, unfortunately, it's going to make Kent more of a four-way. That's just going to add to it. We all have opinions on traffic. Ken's idea that, people are already on Merrimack, they're going to pull in for coffee. That's true. I don't think anyone can really argue that. I'd like to add to that slightly goes against that, and that is because the coffee shop is there, people that are on the streets in the area, not on Merrimack, but maybe on High, and they say, hey, let me drive down Kent, grab a coffee and head off to work there. It will add, I mean, obviously, in Millennium's not saying it's not, but it will add a lot more trips that are not just on Merrimack. So these are my other comments. On the west side, the entrance definitely needs to be improved. We need curb returns, more formalized. I think that utility pole is going to be in the way, mostly for the truck maneuver. And I think, I know that we need to see the turning template with the existing conditions, the curbing on Merrimack. The turning template that he provided right now doesn't have, it's just a seat, it's all white on Merrimack. So we really needed to see that to scale. I do have a little bit of heartburn with the trucks going into the parking area. I'm not against it. It happens all over the world. If they can put in writing approximately how many times a day deliveries will be happening and when, I think that'll help. Is that in the traffic report, Ken?
That is not.
No, but John, Eric, the ZBA asked for that information too, so we're getting that information.
Okay. That is very helpful because even for yourselves, you don't want to create a situation that you're going to end up with enemies with Larry's and everyone else and all the people that live there. So, and that is important. We all want to go slow with the review of this because even the proponent here, the applicant, trying to be assertive and get things passed, it might not be to your best interest. This is going to add a lot of flow, and it's a very busy area. The other issue is the crosswalk. If you could show the layout that I did a few years back. We'll need a crosswalk on the west side of Kent.
This the one, John Eric?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll need a crosswalk on the east side. The reason why I have the crosswalk on the east, besides being self-explanatory, the one further down, right opposite Park Lunch, we removed that one. So we had to add one. That was one of the things that prompted this redesign, was losing the crosswalk across Park Lunch. And what this alignment does is it adds the crosswalk, but as far as traffic coming from Merrimack from the west side heading towards town, I narrow it up so that the curbing goes, it's more consistent 24-foot wide road as you take a right into Kent. And that just helps it helps the alignment better. I just wanted to explain that as to, what you're really looking at. So I do want to see the traffic study. I haven't seen the traffic study, so that would be good. If you go back to the layout, I have a comment on the west lot. So this might be, this is for Millennium or Lisa, whoever. when you park in on the head in parking for Larry's, there's the knockout of the building, which is, I believe, the entrance. You have parking right up against that. Is that a parking stall or is that access for people to walk?
Eric, you're gonna have to answer that question.
Yeah,
So it's right, Eric, it's right next to the handicap space.
At that
Where's
bump out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to look.
And the main question, Eric, is say you park there and you're looking right at Larry's. To the left, that whole parking bay to the left, in front of all the cars, you have a 5-foot gap, give or take, between the cars and the building.
Yeah.
Are you intending for people to walk there? And is that bump out? Is there a door on the north side of that bump out? I don't remember Larry's having a door entrance there, but I can't remember. I don't.
No, there's
I
no
don't shop there that much.
door.
There's
Yeah.
no door there, John, Eric. So I get you, I understand what you're saying. We will look at that.
Yeah, and the importance of that for anyone that, you know, for Jenny that can't really get a good visual, if that car is parked right there, then all those people have to park in the, you know, walk in the parking lot. Yeah, which, you know, it's not really desirable. So that should be looked at. The access for the public on the east side, yeah, I don't really have much comment on that. You know, if you don't have any trucks over there, if you realigned the bays and had a consistent 24-foot width, you could theoretically have a walkway on the property line in landscaping. That might be a little better. I don't know, but your intent might be to get people to walk in front of the coffee shop too. So maybe that's your intent.
No, there's two things though. And this plan doesn't show it. It's not marked on this plan though, Eric. John, Eric, those parking spaces against the building actually move closer to the middle of the parking lot, and there's a 24-foot wide aisle there. And the idea was that it would start where the crosswalk came across Merrimack Street there, right? So people would walk right across, and then there would be a walking path down alongside the building. This plan doesn't have it on it, but Ken's truck turning plan had it, and the most recent plan submitted to the planning office have it. So there is a 5-foot walkway, then there's bumpers, and then there's the parking spaces, which end up making that aisle in the middle 24 feet.
Okay. So yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, I don't know how it's going to work out, whether you as the applicant assist with getting Kent Street, the Kent Street intersection improved. But your design, it'd be great if we can, you know, have a good transition with any redesign of Kent Street. I just offer that to the planning board, ZBA, other city departments. That would be my push, is to do them both at the same time. I'd hate to have this project get developed without Kent Street getting improved. I just think it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you know, I'm going to go back to Councilor Shan's comments that this, no matter what happens here, right, the issues with Kent Street and Merrimack Street have existed long before and will exist in the future, regardless. And so you know, if improvements are made on this site, it will only be helpful, frankly, to how all of the traffic moves in that entire area and how that building is serviced.
John, Eric, do you have a design done for the Kent Street intersection, or a 25% design or something that we could use to make sure that we're not, you know, that we're working with that design too, to understand that there's no conflicts?
Oh yeah, I can give you the CAD drawing. I mean, you know, I didn't spend much time on it. It's a very, I mean, once you look at it, I mean, can you show it up, pull it up again, Andrew, please?
This was your sketch, not to be confused with, there was also where'd I put it? Somewhere there was a complete streets design as well that was done. Oop.
That's what I would like to see, the complete street design, because that's what you will actually build, correct?
I haven't seen that, so I would like
There
to
are
see
two different plans.
Yeah, I would like to see that. Do you know who
Yeah.
prepared it?
Yeah, it was, let me see if I can find this and then I'll share it.
While you're looking for that, Andrew, I
Yep,
do
go
want to
ahead.
make one other comment. Don't forget, you've got the Lombardi oil trucks that have to get out as well, that I don't think is delineated on this plan.
And that's what I wanted to bring up with Eric. Eric, I spent like, the equivalent of like a half a day on this. This was to get some talking points. And I do not want anyone to think that this is a 2-week, well thought out design. The driveways were talking points. Heather brought up a fantastic point about the trucks for oil. I didn't even really look at that. It was really just to close up and tighten up Merrimack for turning into Kent, because Kent is just a sea of pavement. It doesn't address complete streets. It doesn't address bikers. So I just throw that out. Okay, so this one here, yeah, so this is, it serves the same purpose. The green expansion bump out is, that's helpful because you want to shorten that crosswalk. That's a no-brainer. What this doesn't do, I don't see it. Jenny, we're looking at the complete streets drawing. It doesn't look like it's a clearly defined driveway to the east side of this applicant's project. So it looks like the crosswalk would probably interfere with the design of the applicant's project.
Yeah. Yeah, John, Eric, they actually have it, they show a construct ADA compliant driveway aprons just to the east of that sidewalk. That's what they're proposing, which doesn't quite coincide with where.
Doesn't coincide with the property lines or the existing driveway. It's as if, I think they think it's as if there's only one property owner there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That looks like, you know what I mean? It looks like they think that Lombardi's and Leary's is owned by one property owner, which of course it's not.
Yep. So I would beg everyone that's looking at this, TEC would need to go back and change it, because the intent is there. The intent, it looks like that on the eastbound approach of Merrimack, they left parking. So they have a bump out to shorten the crosswalk. That's good. But the rest, yeah, it needs improvement. It needs improvement.
Can I ask if
I'll
this,
pause on this for now. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
I just want to call on a couple of folks who've had their hands up for a long time from this group. I just want to do a first round of them, if that's okay, Counselor.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was just gonna have, it was just a question of clarity, but I can wait.
Okay, I just want to go to Counselor McCauley because he's been waiting for a while.
Yeah, sure. So some of my questions have been answered, but I have one quick question. On the east lot of Lombardi, I see, it's delineated with cars. That's an active site. What, are we squeezing the balloon here, right? To accommodate parking spots here. We've now affected a business that's had access in and out with their trucks and different size and loads and things like that. What has the applicant done to accommodate, living with Lombardi next door?
Thank you, Councilor McCauley. So of course, there are two separate pieces of property, but my clients have indeed, because they are long-term neighbors with Lombardi, had conversations with them, and we did address this, and we're going to make more mention of it on the plans with the zoning board Tuesday night. So you see the crosshatch area down at the north east corner of the lot by the plantings there adjacent to the Lombardi property, right by where it says proposed landscaping. Okay, so that's not a parking space. And then the only trucks that need to pull through this parking lot are let's call them the supply trucks, right? The other trucks can pull out of the Lombardi property itself, but the supply trucks, which are the larger ones, would come through. We would cone off when we know when their delivery is going to happen. We would cone off the 2 spaces adjacent to that crosshatch space so that the delivery trucks can get back out. So they go into the Lombardi property and then they would come back out the Leary property.
Okay, thank you. What we're trying to avoid, is we all should, is having these supply trucks having a back off Merrimack Street, right?
Right, exactly. And so
Yeah.
my clients personally have met with the Lombardis. They've been good neighbors for a long number of years, and they've talked about that.
Yeah, okay. And last comment, and trying to make it quick, is, yeah, I too would suggest that we get a real traffic study. I'm living with the aftermath of fake traffic studies in Chipotle in my ward, as well as Panera. You know, we had an applicant come in and tell me that there were going to be 50 new visits per day, and at sometimes during the day you can't drive down High Street past Dunkin' Donuts because of the lines at both for the uses. So I'm very curious about that. I don't think it's okay to say that you're not going to bring new customers into a new place. I don't think it's good for their business, and I don't think it's helpful that you can rely on existing traffic to be patient enough to be able to handle that additional traffic. So I do think I think there's a lot more stress on that particular area for a real accurate traffic study going forward. So thank you. I yield.
Point well taken. Thank you.
Eric, I see your hand still up. Is there anything on the way on?
Yes. I just wanted to comment on the parking spaces. I know some of the abutters the other night brought up parking spaces. What's confusing about it is that the green landscaped areas, there are parking spaces next to that. You know, we show a tree there, and it's hard to see the parking spaces. So there are indeed 71 there, and we will clean up this plan for the next submittal, so it's readily apparent that there are 71, so there's no confusion over that.
Okay. All right. Any other TSAC members who have questions? Oh, Councilor Donahue, you had a clarifying question, please.
Yes, thank you. The bump outs and the crosswalk, I'm just going to assume, but I still want to just ask and for a point of clarity because I can't see it, is that there are, curb cuts and in all the appropriate spaces. The curb cuts for the, and also I do want to just suggest to Attorney Mead to her clients that they consider truncated domes at any and all crossings where there's no curb transition, such as at curb cuts and across driveways and things like that. It's not, it's not fully like law required, but it is a best practice, and it is something that we are trying to encourage all new projects to be including in their plans. So the truncated domes at all the curb cuts and all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Donahue. We will definitely go back and look at that. I think it's a point well taken. The issue regarding the bump out on Kent Street, that's a John Eric question because that's your design.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to kind of double over. It all kind of was relative. So sorry about that.
No, good point.
No, that's okay.
And I think, as long as it's still conceptual, we'll keep it at that for now, but we'll make sure that that's considered as we look at implementing that as part of a complete streets package. So absolutely, Councilor Donahue.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. Anyone else on the TSAC group want to ask any questions?
One quick one from John Eric. Is this location at Kent Street where there's the crosswalk currently, is that a viable space right now for a hawk signal, similar to what we have on High Street?
I'd have to look into that. It's I'm not sure. It might, personally, I think it should warrant some kind of crossing signal, because this place is getting busy. This project itself would very likely trigger something like that, in my opinion, because one thing that we haven't heard, and I was going to ask, good weather, people are going to walk there too. So there's nothing better than a coffee shop next to Cashman Park, that people can walk down Kent, across the crosswalk, get coffee, go shoot some hoop, and then head back home. So there's going to be a lot of foot traffic too. So I think that needs to be looked at. So Heather, I think that's a good point.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, John Eric.
Great. All right, thanks, everybody. All right, so I want to, Andy Port, Director of Planning, I see your hand.
Sure, thank you. I know I mentioned it on Tuesday night with the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I think it's been mentioned here already, but I think my expectation is that the analysis, anything further analysis, I should say, that's coming from the applicant along with their original traffic memo would be peer reviewed, and that would provide that third-party transportation consultant input would be provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals as well as TSAC. And my assumption there is also that the TSAC would then be able to digest that and provide any further input, possibly iterative with the consultant or the applicant here, and then report back to both whatever the traffic consultant has on peer review and anything TSAC has or other parties back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for their consideration as to whether or not any mitigation is appropriate for traffic, pedestrian, vehicular circulation here and safety if the project were to be approved.
Excellent. No, thank you, Andy. That's very important. Okay, so I want to make sure I get to public comment. I know there's a lot of people who came here tonight because I wanted to make sure that we were considering their concerns. So I have a number of hands raised. I'm going to go through. I'd like to ask to limit folks to their comments. Keep them, please, if you can, about the subject tonight around transportation and traffic safety. I think that's mostly what people want to talk about, but just want to remind that. Because we're already gone pretty long in this meeting already, I want to limit public comment to 2 minutes apiece. I will be timing, you know, a lot of these concerns have already been raised by this group. Looks like there's a lot of homework that we'll be asking for from the applicant, and we will be following up on this again. This will come to another future TSAC meeting. So there's a number of things that we'll be looking for, and we definitely want to make sure that this is, as John Eric said, we slow this down and make sure that this is done right, and that regardless of what happens with the applicant, that we work on improving this intersection. This needs to happen. All right, so I am going to go what I think is the order of people raise their hands. If I confuse it at all, please forgive me, but I'm going to start with Emily Dunn, who I know had her hand raised. Emily, you should be able to talk, just unmute.
As Christine Wallace had mentioned, I have a matter to bring up, which I can do aside from this. It doesn't have to do specifically with this at all. But in regards to this, I did want to mention on a safety issue, we currently just have such extreme issues with safety, and adding this in, to quote Ms. Mead, she had said that this wouldn't cause any extra issues to the community. And we're also being told 154 trips a day off reports from COVID. I couldn't agree more with Andrew Port in saying that a consultant should be brought in, because whoever we're using is obviously, or whoever Wayne is using is inaccurate. And I believe we should also have that consultant look at the parking as well, and to understand truly the issues around it. Currently, if you walk to, well, I can walk there, I live across the street, you can walk in the front door. It looks like we're not going to be able to walk in the front door. It was a pretty easy question I proposed, I believe, to Eric and the other consultant, and we need an entrance to get in, and currently it's a parking spot. Same on the other side, we need an entrance to walk in your restaurant, not walk around all the cars and go down. There needs to be entrance ways, which you won't be able to do and meet the parking criteria. And I also have a very specific question. Where is the current parking lot? Like, what is that? If I'm looking at the auto side, like, what is the current piece?
Okay, all set, Emily?
I just am looking for an answer in regards to, like, if someone can map off the current piece, like, can you just, like, with your arrow show which parking spot it is?
What, if I.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
So first of all, the way the parking is currently configured is Eric said he's going to check out that bump out, but that's actually not the entrance. You enter in underneath the building there, as we all know. So that parking space doesn't block off that entrance necessarily, but we are going to get back. I don't understand I'm not really sure what the other question was. If you scroll back up to the existing conditions.
Emily,
Andrew,
could you just clarify? What was the
Oh, sorry,
question?
yes. It's just where, if I'm looking at the autos Leary side of the parking spot, like area, where is the current of the parking lot?
Oh, sure. If you could go up to the existing conditions plan, Andrew, 2 plans up. There we go. That's it right there. It's not on the opposite side is what she's talking about.
Oh, this one
Yeah,
over
can you
here?
show me that though? Like, where does that end? Like, where is the last parking spot on the current new plan?
Where's the last parking spot?
Yes, so if you go to the current plan, you have parking spots that are all here. Where is the last spot that is part of the plan? That's
In which direction?
the end,
I see.
the very end. Yeah, like where is the last spot? I went down today and I counted, and I just am in complete disarray with the fact that this is even a plan. And I just completely disagree with your counting and ability to put a plan to propose with inaccurate information. So I just would like you to walk yourself into this hole and explain where this parking ends currently.
Well, these, I'm not really sure what Ms. Dunn did or didn't do on the site today. These are surveyed plans. The parking is laid out in accordance with the surveyed plan and the existing conditions plan. So I don't know that I
I'm just
actually
asking where
understand the question.
the end of the line is. It's a really easy question. Like where in the parking lot does the current, like, is the last spot?
So this is the existing plan, right, Lisa? And
That's right. And the back
where is the
part has,
parking?
yeah, the back part has storage on it towards the river.
No, I get that. I'm just asking where the current, am I like phrasing this incorrectly or does?
No, Emily, can I help out?
This is somewhat helpful with this
Please, John,
overhead.
I would appreciate any help.
Yeah, Andrew, can I help out?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
So Emily, we're all in the business, we're all engineers, and Lisa's works with engineers. What's missing on the existing conditions, Eric, is, and I'm talking to Millennium, Emily. There's no striping on the existing conditions, you guys. So Lisa, it's just,
Right.
it's very simple. There's no striping on the existing conditions. That's all
Yeah.
she's asking for.
I get it. So if you go up to the photograph, Andrew did exactly the right thing. So you can see right there where the existing parking ends and the whole back of the lot is boat parking. So if you scroll back down to the existing conditions plan, Andrew, and we'll get it marked on it, stop. So if you approximately where you see that the zone, the floodplain line, right, go back a little bit more towards the river, right there. That's approximately the end of the current parking, car parking.
Okay, perfect. So it currently, either the spots are gonna only be able to fit tiny smart cars and not SUVs that people drive in this town, or they're not gonna be to size, because currently I live across the street. I went down today and counted the current parking spots. It's not engineered in a feasible way for people to be able to pull in and pull out if you're making the spots that much smaller to fit all those spots in.
All right, Emily, thank you very much for your comment. I think
Okay, thank you.
I think we can move on from here. I think this
Yeah.
plan here shows that the area would be extended out to the back where there's currently boat storage. If I'm
And they
Yeah,
all-
even with that, it wouldn't work. Thank you.
And they
though.
meet all this, they meet all the city's parking requirement standards.
Yeah.
Unless Lombardi's fueling.
Yep, all right, we're gonna move on to Jeff Stott. Jeff, you should be able to talk now.
Thank you very much. My name is Jeff Stott. I live at 7 Dove Street, which is near the bottom of Dove Street. And I am very concerned about the traffic. I'm glad this group exists and you guys are working on this. And I do appreciate the thoughts regarding trying to have these bump outs and have some control over the traffic there. I've lived here for 30 years and I cross the street and go into Cashman every day. And I think we all know how dangerous it is. My main concern is, I think these bump outs and adding all these spaces in terms of parking spaces. That's nice, but none of this takes off traffic on the street. With having a fast food restaurant, a 74-seat waterfront fast food restaurant, are we talking, that is a lot of added cars, a lot of added delivery trucks onto a very, very busy street. We're oversaturating that area with commercial businesses and adding too much traffic, and so bump outs aren't gonna take away the traffic. So for instance, last weekend, traffic going into down Merrimack to get to downtown was backed up to Dove Street. And so we're gonna add a 74-seat fast food restaurant right in the middle of all that. It seems like it's insane that we're trying to solve a problem by adding a 70.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. That's 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow. That was very quick.
All right, Dan Denner, you should be able to speak.
Hi, my name is Dan Denner. I live at 14 Dove Street. I cross the street at least twice a day to get to Cashman Park. And every time I cross at the intersections that's been mentioned, I take my life into my own hand, as well as my dogs. I just want to point out that cars go way too fast and they think that they could actually speed up as they come around the park lunch. So I want to address that speed issue that we talked about earlier at the beginning of the meeting. I think that needs to be taken care of. With respect to the property, yesterday morning on my return from Cashman Park, there was an 18-wheeler, which is not a box truck, parked in the parking lot that's proposed to be added. What's the situation with the 18-wheelers that do deliver to Leary's on a regular basis? Not a box truck, but I need to know about that. And thirdly, what about the cars that if I walk or drive down Dove Street that are parked on both sides that make it impossible for me to actually turn either right or left out of Dove Street? And when cars actually go around those parked cars, the road is not wide enough. They're already crossing a double yellow line. I think adding additional traffic, potentially parking on the street, is only going to make myself more at risk to a car accident or to the kids in my neighborhood when they cross at the crosswalk, get hit by a car. I think it would be ridiculous to actually add additional traffic. And adding a fast food restaurant would be a problem. But I think you talked about the turnaround for the box trucks. There are not box trucks only that are delivering to Leary's, and they're much bigger than the 18-wheelers are much bigger. And we already got the poured paper delivery truck coming to the neighborhood. So I think I've covered everything I need to with
Perfect.
2 minutes.
Great, thank you very much. All right, let's go to Melissa Duncan. You should be able to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. My name is Melissa Duncan. I live at 14 Dove Street. I just want to add my voice to the well-documented concerns about the traffic safety on that stretch of Merrimack Street as a pedestrian driving, walking, biking hazard. But I also want to emphasize that there is no margin for any additional significant volume of traffic being added into that. There's no safe way to do that. And that I'm also concerned that the neighborhood is getting short shrift in the process, and the neighborhood extends just beyond just Merrimack Street. The adjoining side streets, traffic will spill over on there. As traffic backs up, we get not just noise and air pollution. And I want to echo what Mr. White said about concerns about unanticipated increases in volume. One of my concerns is that this will be a stopping point on the way to the high school, which would add lots of volume zipping up and down Kent Street. And the other concern is Dove Street has only one means of egress, which is out through Merrimack. Currently, when Leary's parking lot is busy. That's almost like a four-way intersection. Putting the other side of Leary's parking lot into a more active parking lot will just add to the confusion. It's hard enough for those of us who live here, but if you're drawing in lots of people who are unfamiliar with the area, that also increases the hazard. And the hours of operation of the proposed restaurant will add 3 hours of activity to the Leary's parking lot, where it's currently blissfully closed. So that is just an additional traffic pattern. And I'm also concerned that the addition of the sidewalk through the private property is being used kind of as an excuse for endangering that other stretch of sidewalk, which is frequently used by pedestrians. Not everyone should have to go through, be funneled by the coffee shop to get into Cashman Park.
Thank you, Melissa. That's perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go to Bob Ulig. You should have permission to speak.
Thank you. Do I have the ability to share screen by any chance?
I'm afraid not.
Okay. Anyway, so I am a resident of 174 Merrimack Street, so several blocks east of this location, and I'm just going to focus for a minute on the expanse of paving. So once you've kind of walked, because I walk from kind of where Nick's Pizza is to Leary's and beyond, and essentially once you've passed Cashman Park, it's one unabated expanse of asphalt from Kent Street, Merrimack Street into these various parking lots. And so I had done a couple doodles, but I can't share them. But the notion being that you've placed a lot of your green kind of in the center of the parking lot, and I would encourage you to think about, the essentially, as people have pointed out, the sidewalk in all of this whole stretch of the site is really an extension of the street, an extension of the parking lot, and there needs to be a more defined pedestrian corridor between the roadway and between the parking lots. And so you should look to establish where that sidewalk is continuously, and then establish a planting zone between the parking lots and the sidewalk, like you would on a normal street where you've got sidewalk, planting zone, et cetera. So I would just encourage that, because the trees just within the parking lot don't kind of further define that urban edge. And there is a lot of stormwater that comes down Merrimack Street, or comes down Kent Street across Merrimack Street. And so I would think, I guess what I'm curious about also is whether the project could think about any kind of zone of planting green infrastructure along the back property line, because the property should be catching stormwater before it continues on to Cashman Park.
Excellent. Thank you, Bob. Was there anyone else who wanted to speak? Any other hands? I thought I had seen Trisha Pecknick earlier. I don't see any new hands raised. Oh, I see Patricia Pecknick. Okay, Patricia Pecknick, you're in. You just need to unmute. Patricia? Patricia, we can't hear you yet. Patricia, we cannot hear you unless everyone else can, and I just can't. No, I don't think that's the case. All right, I'm going to put you on hold for now, and we'll go to Jacob, whose hand is also raised. All right, Jacob. Just go up.
Hello.
Hi there.
Yeah, my name's Jacob Dumont. I live at 169 Merrimack Street, and the proposal for this restaurant to go in on Merrimack Street is only going to add to the influx of traffic on this road, which is already at an all-time high. And this road can already barely handle the current traffic situations it has on a daily basis, let alone the weekends when it's going to be the busiest. The safety of the road is at the utmost importance in the residents. No abutters want this restaurant to go in due to the traffic concerns that everyone has, that everyone as you know, it's already stated. I cross this street daily in front of autos, in front of Nick's Pizza, walking my dogs to the park, and I can count on my hands the times I haven't been hit more than the times I have, because I've been hit more often, almost hit more often than not. Even yesterday, I sat out there and I counted for a minute. I counted 45 cars going by in 1 minute. That does not equate to 10,150 cars a day, which is the new prediction off the 2020 traffic study, which was only 10,000 a day. So there needs to be a new study done that stretches further than like 100 feet on each side of this building. It needs to go down further into Merrimack Street, where more people are driving, which is going to cause where the backup of traffic will happen. This is a dangerous road already. It's treated like a racetrack. I feel like I'm at a NASCAR event every day outside.
Okay, thank you very much, Jacob. Trisha, I see 2 names for you. I'm gonna just hope that I'm choosing the right one. I'm gonna allow you to talk. Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
I'm
great.
very sorry. I have a bad connection. I'll be quick.
No
I'm
problem.
trying to reconcile the beginning of the meeting with what I'm hearing now. And so what I heard at the beginning is that Kenton Merrimack has been a public safety problem for years, that intersection. Then I'm hearing there's not even enough money in the city budget to put, in crosswalk signs. There's not enough, police.
Patricia, unfortunately, the connection just isn't really working very well. We can't hear you very well.
So I'm hearing those 2 things. Then I'm hearing that the city's at Max Street. Okay, but now I'm hearing that there were 478 pandemic. Yeah. Can you hear me at all?
It's in and out, and unfortunately, it's a little hard to hear. You want to try finishing?
Yeah, I don't know how far I got, but I'm saying I know Kent and Merrimack has been a public safety problem for years, as you're saying, and we don't have the budget for the crosswalks or the policing. But then all the truck traffic is going to be rerouted down Merrimack Street. So this plan doesn't make a lot of sense to add those, 478 cars times 2. That includes trucks backing into the east and west lots. And finally, I'm not convinced that the easement problems in the east lot can be addressed through the relationship between Lombardi Oil and the applicant. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Any other hands? Anyone who hasn't spoken yet? Great. All right, well, thank you very much. It's 5:51 p.m. I want to make sure that we wrap up this issue. At this point, I want to ask if the committee members have any more questions for the applicant. I see 2 hands raised. It's Andy and Christine and Councilor Wallace. Andy, go ahead.
Just briefly, I just wanted to confirm, Attorney Mead, I think you had mentioned per comments were made by the public and the city engineer earlier. I believe you plan on, with the revised site plans that might be going to the board, submitting an existing conditions plans that does adequately show line striping, fencing or whatnot on the property to compare to the proposed.
Oh, yes, we'll be updating that for when we come back, Andy, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. And excuse me, Councilor Wallace.
Thanks. I just wanted to mention, I know Emily spoke before. She also wanted to talk about the parking sign. But she also, the letter that she sent went to TSAC and to the city council. So it likely will go to the public safety committee as well for her specific question about the sign. Because it's actually the council that has to put the order in and all that good stuff. So
I'm happy to bring her in after we wrap up this issue. If
okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely bring her back in. Yep. No, happy to do that. I just thought most of the public forum would be about this issue. Just wanted to give folks time to speak. Brilliant. Okay, thank you, Councilor Wallace. Any other questions for our applicants? All right, we'll be following up with you just to make sure that we're all on the same page about what is required. I think there are a number of items that we're looking for. ZBA will be asking for that peer review on the traffic study. We need the updated conditions on here. The ZBA will need that too. Most of the things that we would ask for, ZBA will already be asking for. So we look forward to having you back and seeing how this has progressed. You know, we know that there's a lot that needs to happen independent of this project, but I think that this board has raised a lot of issues to think about with the project as well. So I think that's where we're at. Anything else that our committee members would like to say? Great. Well, thank you so much for coming by, and I really appreciate members of the public who spoke on this tonight. I think this was a good discussion to have to follow up on Tuesday night's conversation. I'll be typing up my notes, reviewing it with this group, and making sure that a report from this committee meeting tonight is filed, so that we have a record of that. All right. So I'm going to remove our team here as panelists.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
And we are not quite yet done, unfortunately, Jenny. I do want to make sure that let me return to the agenda here. So we had talked about, if we can quickly talk about the crosswalk and then this sign issue. I'm actually just going to let Emily come into the meeting to talk about her issue with the sign, if that's all right with this group. And I know that we're way over time, so if anyone does need to go, please do. I get it. But I do want to make sure that we handle everything that we said would be, at least in a new business. I think we'll punt on River Valley Charter School tonight because we don't have any updates for that for old business. And I'll let Councilor Wallace talk quickly about traffic calming. But first, I'm going to bring Emily into the meeting to discuss the issue of the signage. Emily.
Thank you for allowing me, and I appreciate it. So this is just separate from everything else we've spoken about tonight. Currently, there is parking that's allowed on Merrimack Street in the most narrow area. It's there's a sign right.
Where would this be, Emily?
So this is right at the corner of Merrimack Street and White's Court. Did you receive my letter that I?
Yep.
Okay, so that has it like very detailed, like outlines, like with the address as well. But it's right at the corner of Merrimack Street and White's Corner, and it's 1 hour parking sign. I was very confused when the sergeant said there's nowhere to park on Merrimack Street to police cars. It's like, yeah, there is, and we allow it because it's right in front of my house. But I just think we need to remove it. You know, the town's grown over the years, and this is the most narrow area. Just like Dove Street, the corner of Elm is also a one-way exit onto Merrimack Street, and that's the only way we can come out. So we're coming out onto parked cars on Merrimack, and I've also submitted for the board and everybody to see just some of the issues as well as video. You guys are so well aware of this issue on Merrimack Street. I definitely don't want to keep anyone later talking about that, but I'm just like asking that we remove that 1 hour parking sign. There's plenty of parking on side streets and other places. If you're worried specifically about anything in regards to that, I would love to hear it. I just don't understand how this wouldn't help the issues on Merrimack Street, because there's just so many issues with cars pulling out, parallel parking, doing U-turns. If we called the police, we're very much disrespected. And I would love to talk to the sergeant about that. They don't seem to, the police operator doesn't seem to care. Every time we wait, accidents right here, or almost accidents, the delivery drivers as well. I feel so bad for them. It's a mess. No one should be parking on Merrimack right here.
Ma'am, how are you disrespected?
How am I disrespected? I've been told by your officers to stand in traffic and wait until I'm hit and then call.
That sounds like disrespect. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Not only have I been told that, but my neighbors have as well. And we have called multiple times, and the officers say, very annoyed, we'll add it to your log. They don't seem to care and have that discernment. They've said they'll send police officers down to take a look at it. When they do, the officers are actually speeding by, not slowing down and looking at any issues. It's very disheartening.
Okay, if you could put something in writing and send it over here, I will definitely have that addressed.
I'll follow up with you on that too.
And we can get back to you on it.
Yeah, that would be great. I really would just, I appreciate that a lot. I think part of the—
I appreciate you pointing it out.
Yeah, no, of course. I just, and that's a separate issue, obviously, that I think solving some of the issue, and my goal is just to be a problem solver, not a problem raiser, just to remove the sign. I think that 1 hour parking sign and removing it will help greatly in this area. That is the tiniest area of Merrimack Street where no one can pull out off of Elm, and there are accidents almost daily with cars flying around this little corner.
Well, thank you, Emily. And now I believe that Councilor Wallace was pointing out that would is something that can be brought to City Council, that they have jurisdiction over that. Councilor McCauley is here. He's the chairman of that committee. I'm sure that will come up to him eventually. So yeah, happy to make sure that the folks on this call stay on top of that. And thank you, Emily. I'm going to remove the put you on mute now, but thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other comments on that from this group? Just go ahead and jump in. I can't stay on top of hands.
Yeah, Andy, Andrew, it's Jamie.
Cool. Go ahead.
I just had a quick question. So if she's asking for the 1 hour sign to be removed, is she asking for a no parking sign up? Because if you remove the 1 hour sign, doesn't that just leave it open for people to park there all day?
I believe it would. So I think that's something that will be taken up when this goes into.
So just a observation that I was.
Yep. No, it's a good point. I think it's a request to have a no parking area, which is something that the council could decide to do.
Here's just for a point of clarity. When did that sign get put there and for what purpose? Do we know? Or did I miss that?
I'm happy to research that. I couldn't answer that question at the moment unless anyone else here knows off the top of their head.
Is there business there?
All right. I think Emily wants to give us some clarity. So go ahead, Emily.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. I believe it's in relation to Nick's Pizza, but Frank owns the entire plot of land, and there's 3 different parking lots in the back in which his customers could park, as well as the majority of his customers park on Elm and Olive as well. So it would be beneficial for him to use his spots that he already owns as parking and not just an empty lot.
Got it. That would make sense if it's related to the business. So perfect.
Yeah, it might be, but I don't think that there should be parking here just that's related to a business. There's no room for it. And by law, there has to be a certain width in the street for that to happen. When cars are parked here, not only are they like in the sidewalks that you can't walk by, they're also in the streets creating, so it's like a double traffic jam between people and cars, and it's just really scary. But I think it might have been great back in the day. And my letter details, I don't know if you read that, Ms. Donahue, but I think it was probably a great idea back in the day, but the town's growing, as we've all seen. And as I've been here the last 5 years, it's just this past year, it's gotten out of control. A couple of years ago, it was pretty manageable. So I don't know if that brings any light to anything.
No, that's very helpful.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
so we'll keep this on.
definitely.
I believe this will go through a separate committee, but I think we'll make sure that we're on top of it. Okay. So I'm glad we spoke about that. Is there anyone in this committee who wants to make sure we discuss the Pop Crowley Way crosswalk tonight? Or you know what? I'll just show the images real quick because this might just be a quick DPS fix.
Yes.
Council. Yep. Go ahead.
So you're going to pull up the images?
Yeah.
And Jamie, you can appreciate this. This is the one that's, we don't have the crosswalk at Cashman anymore, but this is the one that's at Pop Crowley Way. And you can look at the Google map and see that, it does exist. It just needed to be repainted. And I know we can't do crosswalks without an ADA compliant route. I've heard that loud and clear. I will say that
Only when we touch it, Counselor, only if we touch the road or the sidewalk. If it's an existing crosswalk and we do not do any road work or sidewalk work, I can repaint the crosswalk. It's just not going to be ADA compliant.
Okay. Can you repaint this crosswalk?
It's on my list. I drove by. I drove by today. It's on the list. We're trying to get them as fast as we can.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm done.
Okay.
Right. Okay, thanks everyone. That's it's just useful to have everyone in the room so we can virtual room so we can talk through these things. Okay.
I'm sorry. Can I just have another point of clarity on that?
Of course.
Of why we can't put a curb cut in? Where does it fall? Where's the crosswalk fall?
Yep. So this is at Pop Crowley Way over Merrimack Street.
It's almost right next to the park lunch, Jenny.
Park lunch,
And I
yeah.
would say that the curb cut, if you were to see it, you can't even see the curb anymore, that the asphalt's almost right at the same level as the sidewalk now.
Okay. So is it technically kind of, there's not really a barrier right now?
I would
with
say
it?
on that side of the street, yeah.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay, and what about where it starts? Is it a barrier there on that curb on the other side?
Maybe an inch.
Yeah, it's not like your standard curb, Council.
Right. Okay, okay.
They're not
All right.
exposed like normal.
Well, I would definitely recommend maybe just getting it painted then. Yeah.
Yep.
Appreciate that, Jenny. And I know exactly where you're coming from. And if there were anything else, I would say, yes, we need to make sure it's ADA compliant. But with only an
Oh,
inch
yeah, no,
showing.
I understand. And I just wanted to have an idea of like, is it a, regular curb? Is it the sunken curb? Is it passable? Is it a barrier? Is it, something we can, if we needed to create a curb cut, could we? That's all. So it doesn't sound like the curbing is at the level it needs to be anyway to have it fall into that arena. So that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Counselor Wallace, you have your hand raised.
I'm lowering it.
Want to give us 30 seconds on traffic calming subgroup?
Sure. We
Cut you off
met.
at 30 seconds.
Yeah, I on the spot. There were a few of us that met to talk about traffic calming, speed reduction, coming up with some standards and recommendations to TSAC. I think the idea is to meet right before TSAC every month. That was not a public meeting, but just to kind of address some of these resident complaints and come up with a process for any temporary measures and then any long-term measures. So John Eric was gonna start working on, acceptable, traffic calming things we can do in Newburyport. And then Livable Streets is actually working on a survey, as Rick was explaining, to kind of pinpoint the areas where there are concerns and whatnot. So we will report back in a month. If anyone else wants to add to it, that's fine, but.
Perfect.
I think that's a pretty good summarization. We're just getting our feet wet with it. So yeah, I think it was a good meeting to start, definitely.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. I think we're going to leave it there tonight for old business. I think we did get through everything in the new business. We will be discussing 200 to 208 Merrimack again in this group. If there's anything else that folks want to follow up with on, my email is alevine@citynewburyport.com. Happy to talk. And thank you to our panelists. Anything else folks want to go over? Great.
Just
Oh, yeah,
as far as the 200 Merrimack, Andrew, they're gonna resubmit, but they have so much work to do. Using old counts is ridiculous. That's embarrassing. The entrance designs is embarrassing. Millennium should be shot. I just can't believe.
I don't condone violence of any kind, John Eric.
I know it. I shouldn't say that. This is recorded. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I say that so loosely.
Why don't we call that a night at that
I don't
point,
mean it.
John Eric?
Yeah, Sergeant, I don't mean it. So, it's embarrassing, and we shouldn't have to work so hard to sound intelligent. If it looks like a duck and acts like a duck and walks like a duck, this thing is going to really inundate the Merrimack Street. And the hard part that I have is trying to put traffic numbers into reality. You can adjust traffic numbers anytime you want for your advantage. That's the way they operate. So I'm curious if you want our TSAC group to do any more investigation. Should we just wait for their stuff? Because they don't have new traffic counts. They should have put out tubes a month ago. Now it's heading for June. School's heading out. They're using traffic counts that are useless. and I can't give a reasonable review of useless counts. So the way I look at it, you're talking September for traffic counts, because doing traffic counts over the summer, there's pros and cons. Newburyport's a tourist area. So there's a lot of confusion as to what those counts would do. Would they be higher, lower? If they're higher, obviously, you still want to look at them for the summer, but maybe the reality of the school flows is higher. I just don't have any confidence of what I should review, because it's just not suitable, you know?
We'll be waiting on the new revision. The peer review only goes so far. We're gonna need some, we are allowed to ask for more information, and we need to do that, so.
Sorry, really quickly, may I ask John Eric or anybody, is this going to the planning board, or John Eric, are you reviewing this as, you know, through another path here?
I have
or is
not,
this
so
the
that's
first
why,
time you've
another
seen
reason
it?
why.
Andy, do you have anything on that? Planning board updates?
Sorry, I stepped away for just a moment. Could you repeat the question?
When does 200 to 208 go to the planning board, if at all?
They haven't gotten there. They're at the zoning board of appeals right now, and that's coming back on the 28th, I believe, of June.
Okay, so engineering has not reviewed this at all?
Oh, no,
yet.
I haven't even looked at anything. This meeting was the first time I've even looked at it.
Okay.
Correct. The filing before the ZBA does not have stormwater management and whatnot for the parking areas. That isn't part of the item before the board.
No, it's about traffic, and that's how Christine's asking about, is even for traffic. I haven't reviewed it for traffic at all.
And that's why I want it reviewed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, regardless of the application before the ZBA, this is a very bad area. This is why it's on our complete streets, and I'm just looking for any help whatsoever. Even if this doesn't go through the ZBA, we do need to address this area, because the residents are right. It has gotten worse and worse over the years, and we need to do something.
All right, I think we've talked about this a lot tonight, and I think.
Thanks,
that
Andrew.
we
Sorry.
have next steps ready to go, and I get that people are frustrated. I think there's good reason for it, but I think we're headed in a direction where we're doing what we can here. So I think we're ready to close. So I'm gonna shut things down. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk again real soon.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.